Hi Olive, I've been getting into accounting lately. I'm curious, can you break down the basic of accounting for me and what it's all about?
Of course. Accounting is essentially the process of recording, summarizing, and analyzing financial transactions. It's like the language of business. And its core, accounting helps business track their income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. The goal is to keep everything transparent and organized, so owners and managers can make informed decisions.
Oh, so it's about numbers and record, right? But what are the main types of accounting?
There are a few key types of accounting: financial accounting, managerial accounting, and cost accounting. Financial accounting, it focuses on preparing financial statements like balance sheets and income statement to show how the company is doing financially. These are external users like investors or tax authorities. Then managerial accounting. It's help management by providing detailed reports on costs, budgets, and financial projections to help them make operational decisions. And the last is cost accounting. It's all about tracking costs like the cost of goods sold, overhead, and labor to help business understand their profitability and a granular level.
Oh, got it. So it's about tracking money in and out. And understanding how the effect of company financial health. But I was thinking about how company used to work. Back in the day, there were different kind of company structure, right?
Yes, for sure. Let's take a quick look at the type of company in the past. There were basically two main types of business structures: sole proprietorship and partnership. Sole proprietorship is the oldest and simplest form. It's when one person owns the business and takes on all the risks and rewards. The downside is that if the business goes under, the owner's personal assets are at risk. And partnerships were more common when two or more people combine resources to start a business. They could pool their skills and capital, but like sole proprietorship, they share responsibility for any debts or losses.
So it was pretty straightforward, but just a couple of people or one person running the show. But I imagine things have evolved in the modern world. What type of company do we have now?
Exactly. Fast forward to today, and we have a lot more options. The most common type of business now are corporation and limited liability companies or LLCs.
What about accounting? Does it change with this new company structure?
Absolutely. For example, corporation need to follow much stricter accounting rules, like generally accepted accounting principles or GAAP in the US. This ensures consistency and transparency because corporations are accountable to shareholders and the public. LLCs, on the other hand, have more flexibility, but they still need to follow basic tax rules and ensure that records are accurate. Modern technology has made accounting a lot of easier too. There are software programs now. They can track everything from cash flow to payroll with just few clicks.
Sounds interesting. So as a business has evolved, accounting has more complex to match the scale of modern companies.
The bigger the company, the more complex the accounting. Today, business are also dealing with international transactions, multi-currency issues, and a lot more regulation. So accountants are much more specialized and they need to keep up with the global standards. But at the end of the day, whether it's sole proprietorship or a massive corporation, accounting remains essential for keeping the business running smooth and ensuring its financial health.
Yeah, it sounds like the basics still apply. Tracking money, making decisions, and staying transparent. Just that today everything is more sophisticated and interconnected.
That's true. Whether you are running a lemonade stand or a multinational corporation, accounting keeps the financial wheels turning.
Okay, thanks Olive. It was super helpful. So Olive, I've been thinking a lot about my career lately, and accounting keeps coming up. as a solid option. But I'm not sure if I'm just focusing on the numbers or if it's actually a way to influence a company performs. How do accounting and company perform connect really?
Great question, Novi. It's easy to think of accounting as just number crunching, but it's more than that. Accounting is essential to providing transparency into companies' financial health and that directly affect performance. For example, if a company's financial statements are inaccurate, management won't have the right data to make informed decisions. And if management is off track, it impacts everything from budgeting to strategy execution.
Oh, right. I've heard the term management accounting. How does it differ from the financial side, and how does it play a role in performance?
That's a good distinction. Financial accounting focuses on preparing the overall financial statement that external parties like investors rely on. But management accounting is more internal. It involves things like cost analysis, budgeting, and forecasting. Management accountants check performance on a more granular level, helping leaders understand where money is being spent and whether resources are being used efficiently. So, if a company is running a marketing campaign, for example, management accountant would look at the ROE and determine if the budget is being used effectively. They help financial operations, which ultimately boost performance.
I see. So, if I wanted to build a career in accounting, what kinds of role or paths could I follow that would allow me to influence the company performance?
There are several paths depending on your interest. If you want to stay closer to the numbers and analytics, you could focus on management accounting or financial planning and analysis. These roles are all about using data to guide decision making and improve performance. If you're interested in strategy, you could look into roles like financial analyst or even a controller, where you're responsible for overseeing financial operations and aligning them with company's long-term goals. And of course, if you want to go all the way, the ultimate goal could be becoming a chief financial officer or even the CEO. This executive rely heavily on the work accountants do to shape company strategy and performance.
Wow, I didn't realize that were so many avenues. So it sounds like accounting is both technical and strategic field.
That's true. It's a blend of technical skills like understanding financial reporting standards, tax codes, and financial system, and strategic thinking. You need to be able to read the numbers, but also interpret what they mean for the business as a whole. And the great part is, as you gain experience, you have the opportunity to move from just executing tasks to advising and influencing company decisions. That's where you can really make an impact.
That's really motivating. I've always liked math and analysis, but I wasn't sure how that translate into making a real difference in a company. Now it's clear.
I'm glad it makes sense now. Accounting isn't just about making sure the books balance. It's about telling the story of a company's financial health and helping it grow and thrive. And the great thing about accounting is that it's needed in virtually every industry, from tech to healthcare, so there's a lot of room for growth.
I feel a lot more confident about pursuing this now. Thanks, Olive.
Anytime, Novi. You've got
Hi Olive.
Hi.
I've been hearing a lot about bookkeeping and employment benefits lately. And honestly, I'm a little confused how about it all works. Can you explain me?
Of course, Nia. It's great that you're asking. Let's start with bookkeeping first. Essentially, bookkeeping is the process of recording and organizing all the financial transactions for business, things like sales, expenses, payroll, and taxes. It's the backbone of accounting and helps a company track where its money is coming from and where it's going.
So bookkeeping is mostly about numbers and organizing receipts and invoice, right?
So, every transaction, whether it's income from sales or money spent on office supplies, gets logged into the company books. There are different systems for doing this, like manual logs or software like QuickBooks. But the key is consistency. It's like keeping a detailed diary but for money.
Ah, got it. So, how does this relate to my job benefit?
Yeah, great question. Job benefits are actually tied to how well the company manages its finance, including bookkeeping. For example, a well-managed payroll system ensures that employees are paid accurately and on time. Bookkeeping also tracks deductions like taxes, health insurance premium, and retirement contribution that come out of your paycheck.
Oh, so the company's bookkeeping system determines how much goes into my paycheck versus what gets deducted for things like taxes or benefits.
Exactly. In fact, it's the bookkeeping team that makes sure all the deductions are correct. So when you get your paycheck, it includes your base salary or wages, and then it subtracts various things such as federal taxes, state taxes, social security, and any benefits like health insurance or retirement contribution.
I see. So, are these benefits optional? Or is that something the company decides for me?
Some benefits are mandatory, like social security and medical taxes, but others are optional and vary by employer. For example, a company might offer health insurance, 401k, retirement plan, paid time off, and even wellness programs. The company usually outlines the benefit it provides in the employee handbook, and you get choose which one you want to participate in.
Okay. So, if I want to sign up for health insurance or a 401k, the bookkeeping department play a part in that.
Yes, once you decide to enroll in benefits, the HR department coordinates with the bookkeeping team to ensure the right amount is deducted from your paycheck. For instance, if you choose to contribute to a 401k, the bookkeeping system tracks that and ensure that the correct amount is taken out of each paycheck and sent to the retirement fund.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of responsibility for the bookkeeping team. Do they also keep track of other things like sick leave or vacation day?
Yes, bookkeeping can also play a role in tracking accruals, like vacation days or sick leave. Some companies accrue these benefits, so every paycheck you earn a certain amount of time off. The bookkeeping system will track how much you accumulated and how much you've used, ensuring everything is counted too.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize how much bookkeeping impacts our benefit and paychecks. So, if the company messes up the bookkeeping, does that mean I could miss out of benefits?
It's possible, though companies try their best to avoid errors. That's why having a reliable bookkeeping system and process is so important. If there is a mistake, say a deduction was missed for your health insurance, it's important to address it quickly with HR or payroll. They can make corrections so you don't miss out any benefit.
Oh, I see. So, I see why keeping accurate books is critical now. It really affects both the company and employees. Thanks for explaining all about this, Olive. I feel like I have a much clearer understanding how everything works together.
Olive, I have been working together on this financial statement, but I realize we haven't talked much about the difference between tax accounting and GAAP. It's a big topic, right?
Oh, definitely. GAAP, or Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, is all about providing a standardized way for companies to prepare their financial statements, so investors and creditors can understand the company's financial health. It's more about accuracy and consistency for financial reporting.
Right, and that's why we have things like revenue recognition and expense matching under GAAP. But when it comes to tax accounting, it's a whole different ballgame, right?
Exactly. Tax accounting is focused on what we IRS or local tax authorities require. It's about compliance with tax laws, not necessarily showing the company's financial position in the same way GAAP does. So, for example, depreciation methods are different in tax accounting versus GAAP. Under the GAAP, we might use straight line depreciation, but for tax purpose, we might use accelerated methods, which can lead to different taxable income.
Right, the difference in depreciation could affect a company tax liability in the short term. GAAP might show a more even expense, while tax accounting could give a bigger deduction earlier, lowering taxable income now but leading to higher tax later.
That's true. And that's the thing. Tax accounting often has a short-term focus on minimizing taxes, while GAAP looks at long-term accuracy in financial performance.
Makes sense. And what about pay and benefits? I know the way they are treated for tax purpose can be tricky.
Yeah, the accounting for employee compensation under GAAP can be pretty complex. For instance, we have to account for stock-based compensation, pension benefits, and other post-employment benefits, which are all considered liabilities under GAAP. But for tax purpose, those can be handled differently. Some benefit might be deductible only when they're actually paid out, not when they're accrued.
True, and things like bonus, 4,100 contributions, or other fringe benefits, some of those are tax deductible when paid, but under GAAP, we have to account for them as expense over time, based on the terms of the employer contract or benefit plan.
Yes, it's all about timing and recognition. From a financial reporting standpoint, GAAP might spread things out, but the tax code is often more focused on when the cash actually change hands.
Which brings us back to the tax planning aspects. For a business, it's about managing that balance between GAAP reporting and minimizing their tax burden. It's a lot to juggle.
Totally, but that's where a tax accountant like you really comes in. You're always on top of those rules to make sure the company doesn't pay more taxes than necessary.
I try my best. It's about staying ahead of the curve with tax law change and making sure the books align properly. It's not always easy, but it's interesting.
Yeah, every time I look at our finance statements, I am reminded of how much impact those little differences in rules can have. It's definitely an interesting puzzle.
Definitely. Well, we've got a lot to think about. Time to get back to it.
Agreed. See you at the next coffee break, Tika.
Hi Olive, I have been doing some research on management accounting for a class project, and I was wondering if you could tell me a bit more about what it actually involves. I know it's different from financial accounting, but I'm still not entirely sure how it works in the real world.
You're right. Management accounting is different from financial accounting. While financial accounting focuses on preparing reports for external stakeholders like investors and regulators, management accounting is all about providing information to help managers within a company make better decisions. It's more internal facing, dealing with the things like budgeting, forecasting, cost analysis, and performance evaluation.
That sounds pretty involved. What kinds of skills do you need to succeed in management accounting?
It definitely requires a strong blend of technical and soft skills. On the technical side, you need to be good with numbers, obviously. Proficiency in tools like Excel and accounting software is essential. You also need to understand cost accounting techniques, financial reporting standards, and business operation. But beyond that, you need to have strong analytical thinking so you can interpret data and translate it into actionable insight for managers.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about soft skills? I mean, how important is communication in the field?
Communication is actually huge. As a management accountant, you are often presenting complex data to people who don't have an accounting background, like marketing managers, sales teams, or even the CEO. So you need to explain your findings in a clear and accessible way. Being able to create reports and presentation that highlights the key insight without overwhelming your audience is crucial. And of course, you need to be able to work well with other departments since you're providing support so many different areas of the business.
Right. So it's not just about crunching numbers. It's about telling a story with the data in a way that people can understand and expand. That's interesting.
It's a mix of technical skills like accounting knowledge and strategic thinking. You need to be proactive in identifying opportunities for cost savings or performance improvement. But you also need to be flexible because every business evaluation is different and sometimes the numbers don't tell you anything. You have to work closely with others to understand the bigger picture.
It sounds like there are a lot of opportunities in the field. Are there specific job roles within management accounting that I should be aware of?
Definitely. Some common job titles in management accounting include cost accountant, financial analyst, management accountant, and even business analyst. As you gain experience, you might move into more senior roles like financial manager, controller, or CFO. The beauty of management accounting is that it's so versatile. You can work virtually in any industry, manufacturing, retail, healthcare, or even non-profit. And the skills you build can be applied to a variety of strategic roles.
Wow, so there's a lot of career growth potential. Does this type of role also require any certification?
Yes, many employers prefer candidates with certificate like the CMA or CPA, although the CMA is more focused on management accounting. This certification helps validate your expertise in the field and can open doors to more senior roles. But even without them, if you demonstrate solid analytical skills and the ability to add value to the business, you can still have a very successful career.
That's really helpful to know. Thanks, Olive. It sounds like management accounting is all about finding ways to help the company run more efficiently and make better decisions. Olive, as you know, financial statements are the backbone of any business. But with all the technological advancements happening, how do you think tech is changing the way we prepare and analyze financial statements?
Oh, definitely. Technology is revolutionizing the entire process. For starters, automated accounting system helps reduce human error and speed up the generation of financial statements. Instead of manually updating ledgers or calculating balances, software like QuickBooks or SAP can handle this task most instantly.
Right, and that means less time spent on data entry and more time analyzing the numbers. But what about accuracy? Are these systems foolproof?
They are not perfect, but they do minimize errors significantly. The key here is data integration. If the system is linked to all departments, sales, payroll, inventory, it ensures that the numbers are consistent across the board. Of course, there's still room for human oversight in reviewing reports, but technology makes the process more reliable.
This makes sense. I'm also noticed a rise in code-based platforms. Do you think these are game changers for financial reporting?
Absolutely. Cloud technology makes financial data more accessible and secure. It allows companies to update their financial statement in real time, which is a huge advantage for decision making. Whether you're on site or working remotely, you can access the latest reports and make adjustments as needed.
So, no more waiting for quarterly reports to come in. Everything is up to date.
Exactly. Real-time financial tracking allows business to respond more quickly to market changes, and it provides CFOs with more accurate forecasts. Plus, cloud systems usually come with built-in security features, encryption, two-factor authentication that protects sensitive financial data.
Speaking of security, what about the risk of cyber attacks on financial data? With all this information online, it must be a concern.
It's definitely a concern, but modern cloud platforms invest heavily in security protocols. The key is to make sure your system is up to date with patches and that you use strong authentication practice. Technology can both help and hinder financial security. It's about how you manage it.
Got it. So, technology is just about speeding up the process. It's also about making it more accurate and secure. But I imagine that technology can also help with analyzing the financial, right?
Yes, advanced analytics and AI tools can sift through massive datasets and highlight trends or anomalies that humans might miss. For example, AI could flag an unusual spike in expenses or predict cash flow issues before they happen. It's almost like having a financial advisor on call 24/7.
That's pretty impressive. So, in a nutshell, technology is not just changing how we create financial statements, it's also transforming how we use them.
Exactly. It's all about efficiency, accuracy, and smarter decision making. Financial statements used to be static reports, but with technology, they're becoming dynamic, actionable tools.
Thanks for the insights, Olive. Looks like we're not just crunching numbers anymore. We are innovating with them.
Anytime, Tika, the future of finance is definitely tech-driven.
As part of internal auditing team, I have been reviewing the company's financial records and order process. I want to get a better understanding of how orders are handled on your site. Can you walk me through it?
Sure. Orders are the backbone of our business. So we have a pretty structured process. When a customer places an order, it goes through several steps. First, it's recorded in our system. Then our sales team confirms the details, including stock availability and payment. After that, the order gets sent to the warehouse and finally it's shipped.
Sounds straightforward, but that's where auditing comes in, right? To make sure everything aligned and accurate.
Yes, you'll be looking at everything from the data entry to inventory to payment processing. It's about making sure we're following the right procedures and that no discrepancies slip through. That includes everything that orders are authorized and the financial transaction match.
Right. Auditing also means ensuring compliance with company policies and legal requirements. For example, if we're processing international orders, we need to confirm that we're following import or export regulation.
And that's where things can get tricky. Sometimes there are delayed shipments or issues with the payments. If the audit doesn't catch those discrepancies, they could result in financial losses or even damage to customer relationship.
Exactly. Audits aren't just about spotting fraud or mistakes, they're also about improving efficiency. If I notice that orders from certain suppliers are always delayed, we might need to change how we vet them or renegotiate terms.
That makes sense. From an operation perspective, it's great to know that audits help us pinpoint weak spots. For example, if orders are often delayed because we don't have enough stock, it's something we can address before it affects our bottom line.
That's the goal. It's not just about finding mistakes, it's about creating a more streamlined, efficient operation. By auditing orders, we can help ensure that everything is processed smoothly, reducing errors, minimizing risk, and ultimately improving customer satisfaction.
Yeah, and the audit process can help ensure that every order is properly authorized and recorded. That means fewer issues will billing and invoicing later, which save us time in the long run.
Exactly. Auditing helps maintain the integrity of our financial records, but it also keeps the entire order process transparent and accountable. The better we are at tracking these details, the less chance we'll have of financial irregularities or compliance violation.
I see. So the audit is really a tool for continuous improvements across departments. Thanks for helping me connect the dots.
Glad I could help. Let me know if you have any more questions. The more we understand each other's process, the smoother things will run.
Hi Olive, thanks for meeting with me today. So I wanted to go over the travel budget and make sure we're on track on the next quarter. I noticed a few discrepancies in the current report.
Sure, Nia. I've been going through some of the upcoming trips and I'm trying to make sure we stay within our allocated budget. What did you notice?
Well, I see that some of the travel expenses from the previous month were higher than anticipated. For example, the hotel charges in Paris came up 25% over budget. Could you clarify that?
Ah, yes. That was due to last-minute change in accommodation. We initially booked a mid-range hotel, but the client meeting got rescheduled and we had to book a more expensive venue. I should have flagged that for you earlier.
No problem. I understand that these things happen. Moving forward, we need the contingency plan. We can accumulate little extra, but we should also have a buffer for this situation.
That makes sense. I'll make sure to include a contingency for any unplanned change in the future. Can you also advise me on how to better track the meal expenses? I'm getting a lot of receipts that aren't categorized, and it's hard to match them to the correct account.
Good point. For meal expenses, let's establish a standard per day. This way, we won't need to track individual receipts. I'll set up a monthly cap and align in it what's standard for each location. I'll also make sure that all travel costs are coded correctly in the system for easier reconciliation.
That will definitely streamline things. So, once we implement the cap, will it cover all meals or should we break it down by type like breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
We can go with a per diem model that covers all meals, but we'll need to ensure that employees stick to the limits. If anyone goes over, they'll have to provide a justification, which we can review later.
Got it. I'll let the team know to expect the new guidelines. How about international flights? I've been noticing that the ticket prices have been fluctuating quite a bit. Should we look in specific airline for better deals?
We could, but let's get some flexibility. Airlines sometimes change their price with little notice. Instead, I recommend we focus on booking early to get better rates. I also set up a policy where we'll review the best deals quarterly.
That sounds fair. I'll also try to book the flights further in advance. One last thing about the travel reimbursement. There have been some delays in processing those. Do you have any suggestions for speeding up the approval process?
Yes, we can streamline the process by digitizing the submission system and automating some approvals for routine expenses. I'll work with the IT department to implement a system where employees can submit receipts online and the system can match them to the budget automatically.
That would be amazing. It will save so much time for both of us. Thanks for all the advice.
You know, Olive, I've been over this monthly round, and I'm realizing just how important it is to get every detail right. One mistake, and it could cause so much trouble.
Absolutely. Even something small like miscalculating overtime or missing out on the deduction can lead to a major headaches. It's not just about paying employees on time, it's about making sure everything is accurate. It can affect their tax filings, bonus, and even benefits.
Exactly, and don't forget the deadline we have to meet for payroll. They always feels like they're looming over you. It's a bit stressful, but I guess it's all worth it when employees get their paychecks right.
Yep, that's the part that makes it all worth it. It's a good feeling to know they're happy with how they compensated. But speaking of employee happiness, have you noticed how much people appreciate little things like team event or breaks during the day? It helps give motivation.
Oh yeah, the company outings or even those random fun activities really makes a difference. It's like a little balance to the stressful work we do. But I think there's a bigger picture here. Companies that offer fun activities or entertainment alongside fair pay seems to have more engaged employees.
That's true. It's not just about the paycheck. It's also about creating a work environment where employees feel valued. A fun team building event or something like a game day can really improve morale. It's those slight perks that make people want to stick around, especially in competitive job market.
I completely agree. It's not just about throwing money at people. It's about creating a culture of appreciation. When employees feel entertained and have opportunities to bond, they feel more connected to the company. They work harder, they stick around longer, and everyone benefits.
That's why I think a good balance between compensation and entertainment is key. It's not just about getting the payroll right, it's also about how we engage with the team outside of the numbers. Like maybe we should suggest a fun monthly activity, something to break up the routine.
Oh, I like that idea. It doesn't have to be anything huge, just something casual like a lunch break or games or a team's official day. It will help boost morale and show that we care about the team's well-being.
Exactly, and think about how much more motivated and productive they will be. If you can provide both fair pay and an engaging entertainment environment, you're building loyalty. Plus, it makes those payroll days feel like a little less stressful when the overall company atmosphere is positive.
I agree. Maybe we should throw in a little entertainment in our next payroll meeting. Bring in a bit of fun while we crunch the numbers.
Sounds like a great idea. A good mix of work and fun, just like we're trying to achieve for the team.
It's all about balance. A happy team means a happy company. And when the payroll's smooth, everyone wins.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Hi Olive. I've been thinking a lot about our expansion into international market lately. There's so much to consider, especially when it comes to international accounting. What do you think?
International accounting is a whole different ballgame. Each country has its own tax laws, reporting requirements, and financial standards. For example, in Europe, they follow IFRS, while in the US, it's GAAP. It's crucial to understand which framework applies to your company when operating in multiple regions.
Oh, so let's say we want to sell in Europe and Asia. How would the financial reporting be different?
Well, in Europe, for instance, companies must adhere to IFRS, which focuses on a principle-based approach. In contrast, GAAP in the US is more rule-based, with a lot of specific guidelines for financial transactions. This means we need to ensure our reports are compliant with local standards in each region. We also need to consider things like exchange rate, tariff, and taxes.
Right. And speaking of tax, how does the tax situation vary internationally?
Taxation is definitely tricky. Different country has different corporate tax rates, and we also need to deal with value-added tax. In Europe, which isn't common in the US, the key is to make sure our selling prices account for those variations, so we are not caught off guard by unexpected costs.
Ah, I see. So, as we expand internationally, we need to make sure we adjust our financial record and pricing strategies based on those local laws. That means a lot of coordination between our accounting team and sales team, right?
Exactly. The accounting team needs to provide accurate reports, ensuring that we're in line with the local laws, while the sales team must understand how to price products and deal with foreign currency exchange. Both sides need to collaborate closely to make sure we are not losing profit or facing compliance issues.
And what about selling in different markets? Are there challenging in understanding consumer behavior or managing global supply chains?
Definitely. Sales teams need to adapt their strategies to local preference, cultural factors, and economic conditions. What sells well in one country might not be as popular in another. Plus, global supply chains are complex. There can be delays due to tariff, political instability, or transportation issues. These factors all affect profitability, so they must be factored into both the pricing and the accounting side.
Ah, it seems like a fine balance. So it's not just about selling the product, but understanding every angle, from finance to logistics to culture fit.
True, and that's why international accounting is so important. It ties everything together and ensures that the business is on track. The financial team is the backbone of that success, helping to make informed decisions.
Oh, thanks for breaking all that down. It really helped to know how much to this to go into managing international operations.
No problem.
Hi Olive,
Hi.
what do you think about the future of accounting? You know, with all the technological advances happening, I wonder how things will change for accountants like me.
I think innovation will completely transform how you and your colleagues work. With AI and automation, a lot of repetitive tasks like data entry and invoice matching will done faster and more accurately. It'll free up more time for strategic decision making, don't you think?
Absolutely. We already have some software tools that can handle basic reconciliation and audits. But I've heard AI could go much further. Imagine if AI could predict financial trends, flag anomalies, or even help us with tax planning. That could be a game changer.
Exactly. Think of the time it would save. You'll no longer have to manually dig through files or data to find insights. AI and machine learning algorithms could spot patterns and suggest actions, making your job not just about number, but more about advising clients on how to grow their business. It will shift from traditional accounting to more of consulting role.
Wow, that sounds amazing. But I'm also curious. Will AI completely replace accountants? I mean, can we still offer a personal touch in a world dominated by tech?
I don't think AI will replace accountants, but it will definitely change the skill set required. Instead of doing routine tasks, accountant will need to be skilled in interpreting the result AI provides. You'll have to focus more on ethics, critical thinking, and complex decision making. The human element will always be essential in guiding business owners, especially with things like strategy or understanding the emotional and contextual aspects of financial decisions.
So it's not about replacing us, but about making us more effective. Still, what about innovation in areas like blockchain? Could that have an impact on accounting?
Oh, for sure. Blockchain could revolutionize the way transactions are recorded and verified. Imagine having an immutable, transparent ledger for every transaction. That could reduce fraud and make audits more reliable. It could also streamline cross-border transactions and reduce the time it takes to clear payment, which could be huge for international business.
Oh wow, I hadn't thought about it like that. Blockchain could make our work more secure and transparent. It's exciting, but also a little daunting. Do you think accountants will need to learn new tech skill to keep up with all these changes?
Definitely. Just like you have to stay on top of the tax law and accounting standards, you'll need to stay updated on new technologies. Learning about data analytics, blockchain, and AI will be crucial. But the good news is with the right tools, the barrier to entry is lower than it might seem. The technology will get more intuitive and you'll have tech experts to lean on for support.
That's relief. It sounds like the future of accounting could be a lot more dynamic than it is now. It's not just about balancing books, it's about balancing tech and human expertise. Hi, I've been reading about financial concepts and I came across amortization and depreciation. Could you explain the difference between the two?
Sure, both amortization and depreciation are methods used to allocate cost of assets over time. The main difference is that depreciation is applied to tangible assets like building or equipment, while amortization is used for intangible assets like patents, trademarks, or goodwill. Both help spread the cost of the asset over its useful life.
Got it. So, why is it important for business to use amortization and depreciation?
It helps business match the cost of an asset with the revenue it generates over time, making financial statement more accurate. It also helps reduce taxable income, which can benefit the company's cash flow. Essentially, it's a way of accounting for decrease in value of an asset and its use or as time passes.
Wow, interesting. I've also heard about advertising as an expense. How does advertising relate to amortization and depreciation?
Great questions. Advertising is treated differently. While amortization and depreciation spread out the cost of an asset over time, advertising expense are usually expensed in the period they are incurred. The key difference is that advertising doesn't relate to an asset that decreases in value over time, so it's recorded as a direct expense.
Okay, so advertising isn't capitalized like an asset, but can advertising expenses be deducted from taxes?
Yes, advertising expenses are typically considered fully deductible in the year they spent, which can provide business with immediate tax benefits. Unlike capitalizing an asset, advertising costs don't need to be spread out over years. They're deducted all at once.
Oh, I see. So, in summary, amortization and depreciation are about spreading out the cost of an asset, but advertising is treated as an immediate expense. Anything else to keep in mind when it comes to those topics?
Yes, when planning finance, it's essential to differentiate between capital expenditure like assets, which are depreciated or amortized, and operational expense like advertising, which are typically expensed immediately. Knowing how to manage both can help a business optimize its financial reporting and taxes.
Hi, Olive.
Hi.
I want to ask you something. Do you think digital currencies will impact traditional banking system?
Digital currency could significantly challenge traditional banking by offering faster, cheaper transaction and greater financial inclusion. They have the potential to decentralize financial systems by passing intermediaries and enabling people to engage directly in transactions without banks. However, central banks might still play a crucial role in regulating and stabilizing these new systems.
Do you have any ideas? Could make currency system more sustainable in the future?
One idea is implementing carbon-based currencies where a portion of the currency's value is tied to sustainability efforts like carbon capture or renewable energy. Another concept is integrating decentralized finance with real-world assets to reduce inflation risk, creating a more balanced and eco-friendly financial environment.
How do cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin affect global markets?
Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin can create volatility in global markets due to their speculative nature and limited regulation. However, they also offer a hedge against inflation and a store of value, especially in countries with unstable fiat currencies. Over time, they may become more integrated into mainstream finance, offering a new kind of global market liquidity.
So, are there any risks associated with introducing new forms of digital currencies on a large scale?
Yes, there are several risks, such as cybersecurity threats, privacy concerns, and potential misuse or for illicit activities. Additionally, rapid implementation without adequate regulatory frameworks could lead to financial instability, fraud, or even market manipulation. It's important to balance innovation with responsible oversight.
What role do you think governments should play in regulating new digital currencies?
Government should play a proactive role in regulating digital currencies by setting clear standards to protect consumers, ensure transparency, and prevent financial crime. This includes frameworks for taxation, anti-money laundering efforts, and safeguards to prevent misuse. However, they should also allow room for innovation and market competition.
Do you know, Olive? I just read about profitability, but I keep getting confused about how it differs from profit. Can you break it down for me?
Of course, this is a common question. Profit is the total amount of money a company makes after all expenses are deducted from its revenue. It's a straightforward number, usually what people think of when they talk about business success.
So, if I sell a product for $100 and my expenses are $70, my profit is $30.
Right, but profitability is a bit more complex. It refers to how efficiently your business is making a profit. It's not just the amount of profit, but how well you're generating that profit in relation to your sales, assets, or equity. Profitability is often measuring using a ratio like the profit margin.
Then profitability is more about efficiency, while profit is just the raw number. But how does profitability tie into future trends?
Great questions. As we look to the future, profitability will play a key role in how business adapt to changing markets. We are seeing an increasing focus on sustainable practice, which means business that can balance both profit and environmental or social responsibility are likely to thrive. This trend will push companies to innovate, cutting down costs, while also contributing positively to society.
So it's about being efficient and responsibility at the same time.
Exactly. Take technology for instance. Companies using AI and automation are lowering operational costs, increasing efficiency, and improving profitability. But Those who don't adapt might struggle to remain profitable in the long term.
That makes sense. So, technology sustainable and innovation are the future trends shaping profitability.
Yes, and there's also the rise of digital transformation. Business that can harness data to make smarter decisions will see better profit margin. Plus, shifting consumer preference towards companies that focus on value beyond just profits. Think ethical practice and transparency will play a huge role.
It seems like the future will require a balance between making money and being socially responsible.
Exactly. It's not just about how much you earn, but how you earn it and how you're perceived by your customer, employees, and even regulators. Profitability will be more about long-term strategies rather than short-term gains.
It sounds like adaptability is the key. Being able to evolve with trends will determine the future of business.
Absolutely. The companies that can stay agile and incorporate these trends into their business models will lead the way. Profitability is no longer just about cutting costs, it's about creating value and adapting to rapidly changing world.
Thanks a lot, Olive. I feel much clearer now about the relationship between profit, profitability, and the future. This is definitely something to keep up in my mind as I